Rain pours from the sky as Ji Yunwoo steps out of the police station, her body trembling. She reaches for her umbrella, but before opening it, the words she just heard inside echo painfully in her mind. The officer had warned her to be careful because she could be sued for making false accusations. According to him, Cha Yoon-suk's displays of affection might simply be a little intense. He advised her to talk things out with her boss instead of causing a scene at the station. He even claimed that Cha Yoon-suk did not seem like the type of man who would refuse to listen to reason. Hearing those words again is enough to make her heart sink. As expected, going up against 5 lawyers alone was simply too much. Then, as if things were not already bad enough, a red car suddenly stops right in front of her. She looks up, and her eyes widen in shock. The moment she recognizes the man stepping out of the vehicle, every alarm bell in her head starts ringing. Without hesitation, she turns and tries to leave. Unfortunately, he calls her name. Ji Yunwoo. Her grip tightens around the umbrella as she walks faster through the rain. She only has one thought in her mind. Run. She never wants to see him again. But before she can get away, a hand lands on her shoulder. The chilling voice that follows makes her blood run cold. He reminds her that the lawyers wanted to sue her immediately and claims that he was the one who stopped them. However, according to him, there will not be a second chance. Then comes the threat that crushes whatever hope she still has. He tells her he will only let her go when she is dead. She should simply accept reality and convince herself that the only man in her life is Cha Yoon-suk. And just like that, after delivering those terrifying words, he casually informs her that yesterday and today will be treated as paid leave, orders her to return to work tomorrow, and calmly walks back to his car. Yunwoo stands alone in the rain, shaken to her core. Desperate for proof, she pulls out her phone. Thankfully, she had recorded every word of the conversation. But the tiny battery warning staring back at her immediately kills that small sense of relief. Her phone is almost dead. At that moment, only one thought remains in her mind. She has to escape somewhere he cannot find her. So our girl wastes no time. She packs only the essentials from her home and books the earliest morning bus she can find. Soon, she is sitting in her seat as the announcement comes that the bus is about to depart. For a brief moment, it almost feels like she might finally get away. Then her phone vibrates. One last notification appears on the screen. Her heart drops the instant she sees the sender's name. Vice President Cha Yoon-suk. The message is short, but it feels like a chain wrapping around her neck. Finding you is nothing to me. So come to work quietly. Wow. Just from a distance, this man still finds a way to remind her that he is watching. Staring at those words, Yunwoo finally switches off her phone. The giant city around her suddenly feels useless. No matter how bright, crowded, or massive it is, she knows she can never truly escape him. And as that painful realization settles in, a dark thought fills her mind. There is only one way out. She must disappear completely, or, as Cha Yoon-suk himself put it, die. Meanwhile, in another city, a convoy of 2 cars rolls to a stop. The rain that had been falling all day has finally eased, and one of the men lowers his window, stretching a hand outside as he looks at the sky with relief. Honestly, he could not be happier. The groundbreaking ceremony is too important for bad weather to ruin. This man is Nam Tae-jin, the president of Seoulyeon Construction. Turning toward the car behind him, he asks if Song-hyun agrees. Inside that vehicle, Nam Song-hyun is busy reading through documents, but he calmly replies that it is indeed a relief, and there is a good reason for their excitement. Hot spring water was recently discovered in Maxingun, and the moment the news broke, Seoulyeon Construction moved fast and bought the entire area. Their plan is huge. A resort complex with hot springs, an amusement park, and a golf resort. Song-hyun personally led the project from beginning to end, and thanks to that success, Seoulyeon Construction climbed out of its long slump and surpassed Yongham Construction to become the #1 company in the industry. Later, Song-hyun's car stops near a bus terminal, and this is where things take an unexpected turn. The driver gets out and spots a young woman standing close to the road. Irritated, he scolds her for standing there while a car is approaching, but that woman is none other than Ji Yunwoo. Soaked from the rain and barely able to see through the fog, she had stepped forward because she thought a bus was arriving. Seeing her appearance, the driver pulls out his wallet and tells her there is a VIP in the car. He offers her cash and tells her to get cleaned up. Meanwhile, Song-hyun remains seated inside, quietly observing her. Something feels strange. She does not look like a local, and he finds himself wondering whether she is arriving or leaving. However, Yunwoo simply stands there in silence. The driver grows even more impatient and demands an answer. In a small voice, she tells him she is fine and asks him to leave. Unfortunately, that only makes him raise his voice further, accusing her of waiting for more money. The moment his voice rises, our girl begins to tremble. Just 6 months ago, she was not like this. Now, even hearing someone shout makes it difficult for her to breathe. Before the situation can get any worse, Songhyun finally steps out of the car and asks what is going on. At that exact moment, Yeonwoo turns toward him. Standing there in his black suit, he catches her attention immediately. And just like that, the paths of these two strangers finally cross. As Songhyun asks what is happening, the driver quickly apologizes and explains that he offered the young woman money for cleaning her clothes, but she refused to take it, causing the delay. Instead of getting angry, Songhyun calmly turns toward Ji Yeonwoo and apologizes on behalf of his staff, explaining that they made a mistake on an unfamiliar road and caused her inconvenience. To his surprise, she immediately takes the blame herself, insisting that she was the careless one and that there is nothing to apologize for. Honestly, that answer catches him off guard. Then, after a brief pause, he takes out a card and writes something on it. Since Seolyung department stores can be found in many regions, he explains that she can arrange her own compensation there because he does not know the value of her clothes and shoes. He hands over the card and the driver nearly loses his mind. That is not just any business card. In his eyes, it is basically an unlimited credit card at Seolyung department store. To him, this soaked young woman has practically won the lottery. However, Yeonwoo simply prepares to leave. Once she is gone, the driver desperately apologizes again, but Songhyun calmly places a hand on his shoulder and points out that he is doing a wonderful job promoting the company while wearing a Seolyung badge on his chest. The poor driver immediately realizes he is in trouble. Trying to lighten the mood, he asks the director to think of it as getting rid of bad luck before the important event. Songhyun then removes the Seolyung badge from the driver's chest and tells him that when they arrive at Dumyeonjae, he should hand over the car keys. The driver obediently bows his head. After all, as the director puts it, they need to ward off bad luck. Meanwhile, Yeonwoo arrives at her mother's house, cleans herself up, and takes a shower. After changing clothes, she remembers calling her mother earlier on the house phone. Her mother had already left for work because important guests from Seoul were arriving. Suddenly, regret hits her. She should have called before coming. She only wanted to see her mother's face once and leave quietly. Then something catches her eye. Folded neatly on the bed is a uniform with a Dumyeonjae staff badge attached to it. The name on the badge reads Shin Sunmi. The moment she sees it, her heart skips a beat. Dumyeonjae is an affiliate of Seolyung Construction. Almost immediately, she reaches into the trousers she wore earlier and pulls out the business card Songhyun gave her. The name written there makes her freeze. Now she remembers. Anyone born and raised in Moksangun has heard that name at least once. To her shock, the VIP her mother mentioned earlier is the very same man she met today. But instead of feeling relieved, she becomes even more worried. If her mother stays busy working and lives in the dormitory for a while, she may have to leave without seeing her at all. Then another frightening thought follows. Where can she go now? Cha Yoon-suk will eventually find this place too. As fear closes in around her, her mind drifts back to the beginning of everything. She remembers her first meeting with Cha Yoon-suk. She greeted him, and he simply told her that they should get along well. At the time, it seemed like a normal encounter. Later, she overheard employees whispering that he was the chairman's son. Not long after, someone called her over and informed her that the team leader wanted to see her. Confused, she wondered what it could be about. Then came the news that changed her life completely. She had been assigned as the new secretary to the newly appointed vice president. The announcement shocked her, but she immediately headed toward the vice president's office, completely unaware of how much that single decision would affect her future. As Ji Yeonwoo stands outside the vice president's office for the first time, she tries to calm herself. She has only just gotten used to her current work, so suddenly being assigned as a secretary makes no sense to her at all. What is going on? With that question still in her mind, she knocks and steps inside. There, she meets Cha Yoon-suk, who simply tells her to take care of him from now on. At first, it seems like a normal assignment, but things do not stay that way. After becoming vice president, Cha Yoon-suk grows even more arrogant. He has no interest in company affairs and spends his time associating with gangsters he proudly calls his brothers. Then, somewhere along the way, his attention turns toward Yeonwoo. What starts as discomfort slowly becomes a nightmare. Late at night, while she is trying to sleep at home, her phone rings. "Do Yeonwoo, I know you're at home. Why aren't you picking up? Other times, he pounds on her door and demands that she open it. When he is not calling, he is flooding her phone with messages. As these painful memories rush back into her mind, fear begins to take hold again. No, it can't be. Probably not. Just then, the phone suddenly rings. Trying desperately to stay calm, she reaches for it. Her hands tremble as she lifts the receiver to her ear. Then, a familiar voice comes through. Hello, Ji Yun-woo. Instantly, relief washes over her. It is Auntie Jae-young. She sinks onto the bed and answers, only for her aunt to immediately deliver terrible news. Her mother has been injured. The words hit like a bolt of lightning. Without wasting a second, Yun-woo rushes to the hospital. The moment she opens the door and sees her mother lying there, panic bursts out of her. Her mother, however, tries to joke about it, asking if someone is chasing her. Despite the smile, one of her hands is in a cast. Yun-woo quickly sits beside her and asks if she is okay. Thankfully, the injury could have been much worse. Her mother explains that she missed a step while walking down the stairs and nearly ended up in the afterlife. Then she becomes curious about why her daughter suddenly came home. Caught off guard, Yun-woo stumbles through an excuse and claims she is on vacation. Her mother accepts the explanation but soon starts trying to get out of bed. That is when things become even more serious. Yun-woo immediately stops her, reminding her that the doctor said she must not move around for months, but her mother is terrified for a different reason. She has to get back to Doomyung-jae. According to her, if someone takes too much time off there, they get replaced without hesitation. The company will not wait for people to recover. Hearing this, Yun-woo can hardly believe it. Surely they would not treat a hard-working employee that way. Unfortunately, her mother insists that is exactly the kind of place Doomyung-jae is. Either she finds someone to cover her position or she risks losing the job she spent years building. The more she talks, the more desperate she becomes. She cannot bear the thought of being cast aside after dedicating so much of her life to that place. Then, suddenly, Yun-woo finds an answer. If a replacement is all they need, then she will become that replacement herself. Her mother stares at her in shock as she volunteers to take her place at Doomyung-jae. At that very moment, a new thought forms in her mind. She has finally found somewhere to hide. Somewhere Cha Yun-sok might not immediately find her. Meanwhile, far away, the very man she is trying to escape is dialing her number again. But the call never connects. The automated message informs him that the number is unavailable. And just like that, his temper explodes. He hurls the phone against the glass and erupts in rage. Ji Yun-woo, you dare run away from me? In that moment, it becomes painfully clear that this nightmare is far from over. Meanwhile, Cha Yun-sok wastes no time. He rushes straight to Ji Yun-woo's apartment and pounds heavily on the door, demanding that she come out, but there is no answer. He looks around in frustration and quickly realizes the place is empty. Furious, he enters the security code, forces the door open, and storms inside while shouting her name. Once again, he tries calling her, only to hear the same automated message telling him that the number is unreachable. His temper immediately explodes. He throws his phone away and rages about how she dared to run from him. Then, as if talking directly to her through the voicemail, his tone shifts. He wonders if she merely went out for fresh air, apologizes, claims he was worried and insists everything is his fault. But the apology quickly turns into another threat. He reminds her that he warned her she could not escape, and promises that no matter where she hides, he will find her. As he finishes speaking, he tightly squeezes a photograph of Ji Yun-woo in his hand. Honestly, this man is becoming more frightening by the minute. Meanwhile, far away from all that madness, our girl finally arrives at Doomyung-jae. This historic place had been registered as a cultural property in 1987. During the Joseon invasion, it served as a study hall for scholars, and during the Japanese occupation, students learned Hangul there. The Nam family had deep ties to the estate as well. Songhyun's great-grandfather had donated most of the land, making the family a source of pride throughout Moksangun. Standing before the massive entrance, Yun-woo can only stare in amazement. Security cameras watch every corner, and she quickly realizes this place is protected far more heavily than she expected. A voice speaks through the intercom, asking who she is. After introducing herself and explaining that she came to see Director Moon Okerai, the gate slowly opens. As she walks inside and notices the cameras everywhere, a hopeful thought crosses her mind. At last, she may have found a place where nobody can find her, a place where she can finally hide. However, that hope does not last very long. Soon, she finds herself sitting across from Director Moon Okerai. The older woman adjusts her glasses and begins questioning her. Name age 29. Hearing that, the director remarks that someone her age should have accomplished quite a lot already. Then comes the bad news. No matter how badly they need workers, they cannot simply hire anyone. The recruitment notice had been posted long ago, and the interview schedule was already arranged. Yunwoo immediately stands and tries to stop her, but the director rises as well and makes it clear that the decision has already been made. She advises Yunwoo to let her mother focus on recovering. Panic instantly sets in. What about her mother? Unfortunately, the answer is cold and direct. Do Myungjae always follows its rules? Whenever there is an empty position, it gets filled. Her mother knows that better than anyone. At that moment, Yunwoo's heart sinks. Desperate, she grabs the director's hand, pleading for another chance. But Moon Oh-karai quickly pulls away and firmly reminds her that this place runs on principles, not emotions. Throwing a tantrum will not change anything. Then she glances at Yunwoo's thin wrist and questions what kind of work someone so frail could even do. With that, she orders her to stop the theatrics and leave. And just like that, the door that seemed to offer safety, hope, and a new beginning starts closing right in front of her eyes. Standing there in complete dismay, Ji Yunwoo can only wonder what she is supposed to do next. Coincidentally, on that very same day, Soyoung Construction holds the groundbreaking ceremony for its massive new project, the Soyoung Resort. The event is called Dream of Soyoung Reborn, and the atmosphere is filled with excitement. Standing before the crowd, the moderator announces the start of the ribbon-cutting ceremony and asks everyone to wish for the successful completion of the resort with a big round of applause. The cameras flash from every direction as Nam Song-hyun steps forward for the ceremony. Later, after the event, he walks alongside Yoon Young, the CEO of Soyoung Group. She praises him for preparing everything so well, but he humbly insists that she did far more than he did. Yoon Young immediately dismisses that idea, joking that she knows her younger brother's personality too well and that he probably accepted whatever his niece put in front of him. Hearing that, Sung-hyun covers one ear and jokingly wonders who is talking badly about him. His aunt laughs and tells him he worked hard. Soon, the two stop beneath a magnolia tree. The mood suddenly becomes much quieter. Looking at the blossoms, Yoon Young gently reminds him that his mother loved magnolias. In fact, all the magnolia trees around the area had been planted by his father because of that love. She reflects on how devoted he was to his wife and remarks that even the heavens can be cruel. Hearing those words brings back painful memories. Sung-hyun remembers standing at his parents' funeral as a child, crying while asking his aunt why his mother and father were so far away. Realizing what she has done, Yoon Young quickly apologizes for bringing up such a sad topic during an important occasion. However, Sung-hyun calmly tells her not to worry because hearing it no longer affects him. Just then, director Moon Oh-karai arrives with news. Earlier that morning, an employee had slipped and been injured, meaning a replacement worker would be needed. Yoon Young points out that hiring matters are usually director Moon's responsibility, but Moon explains that when the chairman is present, do Myungjae's rules require his permission first? As the discussion continues, Sung-hyun begins to walk away. Then a familiar name catches his attention. The injured employee is Shin Sunmi. Looking nearby, he notices someone standing in the distance and asks who she is. Director Moon explains that she is Sunmi's daughter and has come with a doctor's note. Meanwhile, Ji Yunwoo is completely lost in thought. After being rejected earlier, she keeps wondering whether there was ever any chance she would be accepted in the first place. Before she can sink deeper into those worries, a calm voice interrupts her. If she continues in that direction, she will end up even farther from the exit. Startled, she turns around and finds herself face to face with Sung-hyun. He politely offers to help if she is lost. Caught off guard, she reacts too quickly and suddenly stumbles. For a split second, it looks like she is about to fall. Thankfully, before she hits the ground, Sung-hyun reaches out, catches her hand, and steadies her. Then, as he looks at her properly, recognition appears on his face. This is not the first time they have crossed paths. Realizing it at the same moment, he quietly remarks that they have met before. And just like that, what seemed like a simple accident begins to feel like the start of something much bigger. As Sung-hyun catches Ji Yunwoo before she can fall, the two find themselves staring at each other for a brief moment. Then he gently lets go and asks what brought her to do Myungjae. After fixing her clothes, she explains that she came to see Manager Moon. Naturally, his next question is whether she has finished her business there. The answer comes with a gloomy expression. Apparently, things did not go as planned. Hearing that, Sung-hyun quickly picks up on it. If she met Manager Moon but still looks troubled, then perhaps she was unable to fully say what she wanted to say. And honestly, he is not wrong. At that moment, Yun-woo nervously fidgets with her fingers. A thought keeps running through her head. This man is Nam Song-hyun, the owner of Dumyeongjae. Maybe, just maybe, he would listen to her request. She could even use the incident at the bus stop as an excuse and ask for a chance to work there. Gathering her courage, she finally looks up and tries to speak. However, when the moment comes, her confidence completely disappears. She realizes that what she lacks is not time but the courage to ask. The words refuse to leave her mouth. In the end, she turns away and claims that she already knows the way out. She will simply leave. Song-hyun watches her quietly and remarks that it sounds as though her business at Dumyeongjae is finished now that she is taking her sense of shame with her. His words stop her for a second, but only for a second. She confirms that everything is finished, says goodbye, and walks away. Meanwhile, he remains standing there, watching her leave. Later, Yun-woo returns to the hospital and stays by her mother's side. Exhausted, she falls asleep, but even sleep offers no peace. In her dream, a familiar voice echoes around her. The voice promises that she will be found and made to regret running away. It repeats the terrifying warning that she will only be free when she dies. At the same time, unseen hands seem to hold her down while she desperately struggles to escape. The fear becomes too much. She screams and suddenly wakes up, still shouting. Her hand immediately moves to her neck as she realizes it was only a nightmare. Yet the fear remains. Trembling, she covers her mouth and wonders if she will ever escape Cha Yun-sak before she dies. At this point, she knows she cannot keep living like this. Even if it feels shameless, she wants to leave and find somewhere safe. The next morning arrives, and life continues. A rooster crows as Song-hyun wakes up and sits upright in bed. He jokes to himself that he probably will not need an alarm clock for a month. While getting dressed, his thoughts unexpectedly drift back to Yun-woo. First, the encounter at the bus stop, then meeting her again inside a residence where outsiders are not normally allowed. The whole thing feels strangely unusual. After finishing his preparations, he steps outside his room, where the maids immediately greet him with good mornings. Waiting nearby is manager Marta, who informs him that breakfast is ready. He heads to the dining room and begins eating while Marta quietly worries whether the meal suits his taste. Since there are no decent restaurants nearby, she explains that Dumyeongjae will personally prepare all of his meals. However, Song-hyun tries to keep things simple. He tells her that such effort is unnecessary and that he can eat ordinary meals with the staff. Marta is having none of it. According to her, making sure the executive director eats well and sleeps well is Dumyeongjae's highest priority. Not only will they take care of his meals, but they will also handle the staff meals. With complete confidence, she assures him that everything is under control and that he has nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, inside Dumyeongjae, one of the maids quietly leans toward manager Moon Ok-rai and nervously points out that Jong-woo has been standing outside since dawn. The manager immediately hushes her and reminds her to stay quiet because the executive director is eating. Unfortunately for her, Song-hyun hears enough to know that something is being hidden from him. After wiping his mouth, he calmly asks what is going on. Manager Moon quickly brushes it aside, insisting that it is nothing he needs to worry about. However, when he asks again, his voice is much firmer this time. Realizing she can no longer stay silent, the maid explains that the injured employee's daughter has returned and has been waiting since early morning. According to her, the woman insists that she absolutely must speak with him. Song-hyun immediately orders them to let her in. Once again, manager Moon tries to stop it, arguing that she will handle the matter herself and that such a trivial issue should not trouble him. Big mistake. The atmosphere instantly changes. He places his cup down with enough force to make his point crystal clear and turns toward her. Apparently, manager Moon has a special talent for making people repeat themselves. Let her in. He will hear what she has to say personally. At that point, there is nothing left to argue about. Shocked, the manager can only accept the order. As Song-hyun picks up his briefcase and rises from his seat, a thought crosses his mind. Yesterday, Yun-woo looked like someone who had already thrown away every bit of pride she had left. So what kind of words could she possibly be carrying today? Whatever they are, they must be important enough for her to return. And strangely enough, he wants to hear them for himself. Outside, our girl is still waiting, fighting her anxiety. Deep down, she knows this is no longer the time to worry about pride or embarrassment. If Cha Yun-sak decides to look for her, finding her mother's address will only be a matter of time. Suddenly, the gate opens and a voice calls her name, inviting her inside. As she walks through the entrance, she cannot help but feel that Doomyung-jae is like a fortress cut off from the rest of the world, and that is exactly why she wants to be there. In her mind, this place feels like the only safe shelter left, the only place where she can disappear from Cha Yun-sok's reach. Determined not to repeat yesterday's mistake, she tells herself to stay calm and speak properly with Manager Moon this time. Then, just as someone enters the room, she quickly stands and greets who she assumes is the manager. But before she can continue, a familiar voice cuts in. Yesterday, her business with Doomyung-jae supposedly ended, yet here she is again. Since she has returned, he wants to hear what she has to say. Please, have a seat. The moment she looks up, she freezes in surprise. It is not Manager Moon at all. Sitting before her is Nam Song-hyun himself. Left with no choice, she slowly takes a seat. Meanwhile, behind the door, Manager Moon remains standing there, still unable to hide her dismay as this unexpected meeting begins. As Ji Yeonwoo sits across from Song-hyun, every thought she carefully prepared suddenly disappears. For some reason, those sharp eyes make it difficult for her to focus. Meanwhile, he gets straight to the point. His schedule is completely packed, so he cannot give her much time. Whatever she came to say, she should say it now. At that moment, reality hits hard. Not even a full day has passed since everything fell apart, and already she has been pushed this low. For a brief second, a painful thought flashes through her mind. Is this really how her life ends? But our girl quickly shakes it off. Pride is a luxury she can no longer afford. Sitting up straight, she finally gathers the courage she could not find yesterday. She explains that Shin Sunmi, the employee injured on the job, is her mother. As her daughter, she wants to temporarily take her place. She even brought her documents to prove herself. She insists that she is much tougher than she looks and can handle any task given to her. As for payment, she does not want a single cent. Her only request is that her mother's name not be removed from Doomyung-jae's records. By the time she finishes, she is practically begging. Song-hyun listens carefully, arms crossed, thinking over every word. Then, without dragging things out, he gives his answer. Very well. She can do it. Just like that. Yeonwoo is completely stunned. For a moment, she cannot even believe what she heard. Is he serious? Can she really work there? Song-hyun stands and calmly reminds her that getting the job was the very reason she came to see him in the first place. Overwhelmed with relief, she immediately bows and promises not to disappoint him. However, he leaves her with one warning. All those promises about doing whatever is asked of her had better be true. Because he dislikes people who fail to keep their word. Even after he says it, Yeonwoo can barely process what is happening. Honestly, she cannot tell whether she is awake or trapped inside a dream. Near that day, reality comes crashing back when Manager Moon Okerai drops a massive manual onto the table. According to her, the book contains the foundation rules of Doomyung-jae, and every page must be memorized. This estate runs on its own laws, and nobody should expect the work to be easy. Her uniform will be provided soon, and her identification badge will be completed in 2 days. Yeonwoo obediently accepts every instruction. Unfortunately, the lecture is only beginning. Manager Moon makes it clear that anyone planning to go home at night is unfit for the position. Anyone wanting days off or personal leave should walk out immediately. Surprisingly, Yeonwoo simply smiles and promises not to complain. Hearing that, Moon silently studies her. For someone so small and fragile looking, she certainly talks confidently. Then comes the biggest rule of all. Once she enters Doomyung-jae, she cannot leave until permission is granted. There will be no contact with the outside world. In Manager Moon's experience, this is usually the point where people panic and run away. Knotless young workers have done exactly that. Yet Yeonwoo calmly replies that it is fine. In fact, the arrangement suits her perfectly. That answer completely catches the manager off guard. She even reminds her that this means no friends and no boyfriend. The response is heartbreaking in its simplicity. She has no friends to miss, and she has no boyfriend. Hearing that, Moon cannot help wondering what kind of lonely life this young woman has been living. After a long sigh, she finally decides to give her a chance and see what she is made of. Grateful beyond words, Yeonwoo thanks her. Before leaving, Moon instructs her to contact her mother one last time and explain that she will be unreachable for a long time. As she walks away, the veteran manager remains unconvinced. She has spent 59 years at Doomyung-jae. She arrived there herself as an 18-year-old orphan through a family recommendation. Back then, the older maids looked at her tiny frame and wondered what work she could possibly do. Remembering that past, she quietly watches Yeonwoo and wonders just how long that cheerful smile will survive once the real challenges begin. To understand Moon Ok-rai, you have to understand the life she lived. With 8 younger siblings depending on her, she became the pillar holding her family together. Doomyung-jae was not some peaceful workplace. It was a battlefield filled with endless visitors and endless work. Her youth disappeared beneath mountains of laundry and countless chores. Day after day, she worked, slept, and lived only for the estate, sending every bit of her earnings back home so her family could survive. Years turned into decades, and before she knew it, her entire life belonged to Doomyung-jae. Now, in her 70s, after becoming its chief manager and longest-serving resident, the estate is all she has left. As she walks away after meeting Ji Yeonwoo, she cannot help but scoff at the young woman's cheerful attitude. In her eyes, Doomyung-jae is not the kind of place that rewards bright smiles and optimism. Because of that, she quietly decides to test her. She wants to see just how long that smile can survive when faced with the bitter reality of the mother of Doomyung-jae. Meanwhile, over at the So-young Resort Development Center, Song-hyun is also deep in thought. Even while handling work, his mind briefly drifts back to the desperate request Yeonwoo made. Around him, the harsh reality of business continues as usual. A dismissed worker desperately begs for another chance, but Song-hyun pays no attention. In the ruthless world of bidding wars and corporate battles, he has already watched countless people lose everything. Yet somehow, despite all of that, he listened to one desperate woman. Perhaps it is because he spent his entire life surrounded by workers covered in dust, sweat, and hardship. A woman as fragile-looking as Ji Yeonwoo felt completely out of place in that world. Still, he brushes the thought aside and convinces himself it was nothing more than a passing curiosity. Soon after, a staff member enters his office with news that CEO Cho Gil-uk of Namsul Industries is requesting a preliminary meeting. Song-hyun immediately instructs him to find an opening 1 week later. As the employee prepares to leave, another issue catches his attention. He politely points out that the man's scent should be used more carefully in the future. The employee instantly realizes his mistake. The handbook clearly mentioned the executive director's sensitivity to scents, but it had slipped his mind. After apologizing, he leaves to carry out the order. Song-hyun then requests the team leaders for the Namsul Industries project and prepares for a briefing. Deep down, he reflects on how much he hates unexpected perfume. It overwhelms his senses before he can prepare himself, leaving him unable to escape or reject it. With that thought lingering in his mind, he sits down with the team leaders, lifts a document, and begins the meeting. Meanwhile, Ji Yeonwoo is riding in a taxi toward the clinic. The driver informs her that the medical facility is about 20 minutes away. For her, this trip is important. First, she needs a health clearance. Then she plans to deactivate her phone completely. During the ride, the driver notices where she came from and remarks that Doomyung-jae is not a place ordinary people get into. When she explains that she has been hired and that today is her first day, he congratulates her and encourages her to work hard and hold on to the opportunity. She thanks him sincerely before lowering the window and staring outside. At that moment, reality finally settles in. She is truly entering Doomyung-jae. There is no turning back now. Once she crosses that gate, she will not see the outside world again for many months. However, as our girl looks ahead toward what she hopes will be safety, danger is already moving behind her. A black car speeds past the taxi and arrives at her mother's residence. 2 stern-looking men step out and immediately make a call. Their message is short and chilling. They have reached their destination. They are standing outside Ji Yeonwoo's home. Just like that, the hunt for her is getting closer. Meanwhile, Ji Yeonwoo was finally shown to her room by Ja-young, the same woman who called her when her mother got injured. Grateful, Yeonwoo thanks her for making that call. Thankfully, Ja-young brushes it off and points out that it was lucky she happened to be home that day. She then opens the door and shows her the room, explaining that it is quite different from the main building. Since it is an old structure, she advises her to open the windows every morning and let fresh air in. Yeonwoo agrees, and before leaving, Ja-young offers some friendly advice. Director Moon is strict and often speaks harshly, so it is better not to take her words to heart. In fact, there will be many people who may speak badly about her. For now, she should simply think of herself as a new palace maid starting her first day. Trying to lighten the mood, Yeonwoo jokes that being treated like a court lady sounds much better than being a lowly servant. Ja-young immediately laughs and tells her that servants actually have it better than she does. Realizing the truth, Yeonwoo can only laugh too. After Ja-young leaves, our girl finally has a moment alone. She looks around the room and opens the window. To her surprise, the small space feels warm and comforting. For the first time in a while, her heart feels a little lighter. As she watches a butterfly outside, she remembers how much her mother loved seeing them. Even the butterflies here seem beautiful. However, the peaceful moment does not last long. Looking outside, she suddenly spots Young-hyun. Instantly, panic takes over. What should she do? For some reason, she ducks out of sight and hides. Then she pauses and questions herself. Why am I hiding? He is the one who allowed me into Myung-jae. Gathering some courage, she peeks out again. Director Moon had told her to greet him properly after all. Yet before she can do anything, Song-hyun simply looks in her direction, says nothing, and walks away. Yeonwoo releases a quiet sigh of relief. It has clearly been a long and exhausting day. Meanwhile, Song-hyun continues on his way, thinking only about the pleasant scent of magnolia lingering in the air. Unfortunately, peace never lasts long in Myung-jae. Not long after, Yeonwoo is summoned and immediately runs into the storm known as Muno-Kerai. The chief manager is already furious. The executive director is here, so why has she not come down yet? Caught off guard, Yeonwoo quickly apologizes and explains that she did not know he had arrived. That answer only makes things worse. Didn't she receive a walkie-talkie? Thankfully, Jae-young steps in and points out that Yeonwoo has not even received her uniform yet, so how could she possibly have one? Maybe they should start properly tomorrow. Big mistake. Director Moon fires back immediately. Tomorrow? Her salary started counting from today. Then comes her first assignment. Sweep the yard. But before that, write down your phone number. The moment Yeonwoo calmly replies that she does not have a phone, the chief manager nearly explodes. What do you mean you don't have a phone? A woman in her 20s without a phone? Yeonwoo explains that she thought she would not need one, so she got rid of it. Now that answer sounds suspicious even to us. Director Moon grabs her shoulder and narrows her eyes. Wait a minute. Is she hiding from the government? Is that why she came all the way here? Startled, Yeonwoo immediately denies it. Thankfully, another maid calls the manager away before the questioning goes any further. Before leaving, Muno-Kerai orders her to go to the office and collect a walkie-talkie from Section Chief Wong. Yeonwoo obediently agrees and heads off. However, as the chief manager walks away, she cannot stop thinking about the strange young woman she just met. This girl is unlike anyone she has seen before. Definitely strange. And honestly, with everything Yeonwoo is hiding, Director Moon might not be completely wrong. This version keeps every event from your source while making it flow like a dramatic manhwa recap narration with stronger emotion, smoother transitions, and more audience engagement. Before long, Ji Yeonwoo receives her walkie-talkie and heads to Song Hyan's room. Standing outside the door, she reminds herself that she only came to air out the room, yet for some reason she feels strangely nervous. After knocking, she steps inside and is immediately surprised. The room is completely modern, nothing like what she expected from a place passed down through generations of the family's eldest sons. Still, she quickly focuses on why she came. Then Song Hyan looks at her and casually asks if she has used the business card yet. When she admits she has not, he tells her it would be good to put it to use soon. Wanting to repay his kindness, she thanks him again for giving her the job and carefully pulls the card from her pocket. It is slightly crumpled and she apologizes before trying to return it, explaining that it is not something she should keep. Surprisingly, Song Hyan reaches for his wallet instead and suggests that it does not necessarily have to be the department store card. He even starts to pull out a credit card. Our girl immediately panics and refuses, insisting the clothes were not expensive and that she would not have minded throwing them away anyway. But he remains stubborn, arguing that she should buy clothes she would actually care about ruining and preferably several sets. She keeps refusing, yet he calmly admits that he can only feel at ease after properly compensating her. Realizing this conversation might never end if she keeps arguing, she quickly changes tactics and asks to take back her own business card instead. In her heart, she feels that if she refuses one more time, she may never escape this room. After bowing politely and announcing her departure, she turns to leave. Song Hyan watches her and remarks that he will take that response as a sign she is hoping for a larger reward. Walking away with her business card in hand, she cannot help thinking about the strange exchange. The next day, Yeonwoo finally receives her uniform. The moment she puts it on, Ja-young and Do-eun-ja stare at her. Ja-young is completely impressed, joking that she could walk straight into a Miss Korea competition looking like that. According to her, it is the exact same uniform everyone wears, yet somehow it looks completely different on Yeonwoo. Unfortunately, Moon-ja is far less impressed. Folding her arms, she eyes her suspiciously and asks if she deliberately tightened her waist. Then she remembers how Shin Sunmi always bragged about her beautiful daughter and reluctantly admits it was not a complete lie. Still, she immediately becomes hostile, asking who exactly Yeonwoo is trying to look pretty for. She even accuses her of wearing makeup and putting something on her lips. Before Yeonwoo can properly defend herself, Moon-ja calls her a liar and orders her to do nothing more than wash her face before coming out from now on. Yeonwoo simply accepts it and asks what work she should do next. Moon-ja responds that there is plenty to do and that she has been wondering what kind of job would make people praise her for putting Yeonwoo to good use. With that, she orders her to follow. Meanwhile, at the Suyong Resort construction site, Song Hyun is reviewing documents when someone brings him a list of representatives from the construction materials side. After dismissing the employee, his eyes land on a familiar item, Yeonwoo's business card. Suddenly, a strange thought bothers him. That woman knows his name, workplace, and position, yet he does not even know hers. For some reason, that feels like a disadvantage. He immediately questions himself. Why should he care about her name? He has never paid attention to the names of ordinary employees before. The thought itself feels ridiculous. Yet he cannot stop remembering their conversation, especially when she said she planned to stay at Dumyeongjae for only 3 months, just long enough for her mother to recover safely. Looking at his reflection, he finds himself wondering one simple question: why me? Just then, a knock breaks his thoughts. Just then, the door swings open and Nam Hyunwook walks in with his usual carefree energy, greeting Song Hyun as if he owns the place. Song Hyun immediately gets up and asks when he arrived. The answer is simple just now. Apparently, he was already planning to head to Dumyeongjae but decided to stop by first. Song Hyun points out that he should have at least given some notice, but Hyunwook only laughs and teases him, claiming he looks pretty happy to see him anyway. And honestly, for a moment, Song Hyun actually smiles. Unlike most members of the Nam family, Hyunwook grows up friendly and easygoing. While Song Hyun throws himself into work, Hyunwook lives like a free bird. He runs a private workshop and sometimes disappears on trips with nothing but a camera in his hands. Soon, the two sit down together with tea. Hyunwook stretches comfortably and admits that being here feels like a vacation to him. Song Hyun can hardly believe what he is hearing. A dusty construction site is a vacation, but Hyunwook insists it is cool, a place filled with the sweat, heat, and struggles of real men. Song Hyun jokingly tells him to come work there then. The answer comes immediately: no thanks, not a chance. According to Hyunwook, there are too many fun things in the world to spend every waking moment working. He even tells his older brother to relax once in a while, especially when their father is not around. Song Hyun calmly sips his tea and points out that he is not the one getting a break. If anything, their father is the one resting. Hyunwook cannot even argue with that. In fact, he admits everyone already knows his father is basically a figurehead while Song Hyun does all the real work. No wonder his mother is always complaining. Still, Song Hyun brushes it off. After dealing with the man for years, he has learned how to handle him. Relieved, Hyunwook changes the topic and asks when work ends. Then comes the shocking answer. At least another hour. At least. Hyunwook practically explodes. Why not just stop working now? Song Hyun immediately threatens to throw him out if he keeps yelling. So the younger man dramatically flops onto the couch, pulls out his phone, and announces that he will just sit there and scroll while Song Hyun works. Before returning to business, Song Hyun asks how long he plans to stay at Dumyeongjae. Hyunwook admits he never made a plan. Maybe a week. Or maybe longer if something interesting happens. And with that mischievous smile on his face, you just know trouble is waiting around the corner. Meanwhile, back at Dumyeongjae, another kind of drama is brewing. Doonja is busy gossiping with Mrs. Marta, and wow, she is not holding back. According to her, Ji Yeonwoo is definitely not an ordinary woman. She insists the newcomer looks like a complete vixen, and claims men probably cannot keep their eyes or hands off her even when she is standing still. Marta immediately shuts that nonsense down, calling it crude talk about an unmarried young lady. But Doonja refuses to back down, proudly declaring herself an excellent judge of character. Unfortunately for her, Marta fires back with a brutal question. Is that amazing judgment the same reason she spent her life supporting a gambling husband? Ouch. That one lands hard. Doonja can only stammer while complaining that those words are hurtful. Marta is not finished though. If she is jealous because the girl is pretty, she should just admit it. Naturally, Eunja starts talking about her glory days, claiming men used to line up just to catch a glimpse of her skirt when she was young. Marta destroys that argument too, reminding her that she knew her back then and that she actually looks better now than she did in her youth. At this point, Eunja is absolutely fuming. Yet before she can continue the fight, Marta asks what the newcomer is doing. That's when Eunja casually reveals that she has already sent Ji Yunwoo off on errands and warns Marta not to go looking for her. Marta immediately sees through the scheme and points out that Eunja seems determined to eat the poor girl alive, and Eunja does not even deny it. In fact, she confidently predicts that the new recruit will not survive 3 days before breaking down. Little does she know, our girl has already survived far worse than workplace gossip. The real question now is whether Do Myung-jae is ready for Ji Yunwoo, not the other way around. Meanwhile, poor Ji Yunwoo is trapped in another building, surrounded by what feels like an endless mountain of dirty dishes. As she works, she cannot help wondering how many are still left. Earlier, Do Eun-ja had dragged her there and handed over the task. When Yunwoo politely asked when everything needed to be organized, the older woman gave a cold answer. The one doing the work should know. Why would the one giving the orders know? Not exactly helpful. When Yunwoo first opened the building, she was hit by so much dust that she started coughing immediately. And while she struggled inside, Eun-ja walked away completely satisfied, convinced that the newcomer would be finished within 3 days. Unfortunately for her, our girl is a lot tougher than she looks. Even after a very long time, she is still there washing dishes. Her hands keep moving, but reality starts setting in. At this rate, it might take an entire week to finish everything. Then her stomach growls. She is starving. Just then, Moon Okarai arrives and is completely stunned by what she sees. Yunwoo explains that she has been doing the dishes, and the chief manager quickly realizes she has spent the entire day there. When the young woman starts taking off her gloves and asks if there is anything else she should do, Moon Okarai almost cannot believe it. What about food? She was not even at mealtime. Isn't the walkie-talkie supposed to be used to call in when it's time to eat? If she is not planning to die there, she needs to stop for the day and rest. Yet even after hearing that, Yunwoo immediately asks what her next task is. At that point, Moon Okarai is genuinely surprised. What? She still has night watch duty later and wants to keep working? The chief manager finally orders her to head to the area under the director's building, sweep it, and air the place out. As Yunwoo obediently accepts the task and leaves, Moon Okarai can only watch her go and admit something to herself. A tough one has arrived. Really tough. Outside, another interesting moment is about to unfold. Song Hyun is walking with Nam Hyunwook through the grounds of Do Myung-jae. Hyunwook looks around and laughs, noticing that nothing has changed. Not even Grandma Moon. Then his eyes land on the magnolia tree. Instantly, old memories come flooding back. He reminds Song Hyun how he used to climb that tree as a child, and how his older brother was always the one who had to get him back down. Song Hyun points out that it has been a long time since he visited Do Myung-jae. Hyunwook agrees, though it does not feel that way. Maybe it is because he attended middle school nearby. For some reason, every time he comes here, he feels peaceful. Standing beneath the magnolia tree, he closes his eyes for a moment while Song Hyun starts walking away and tells him they should leave. Then suddenly, everything changes. Hyunwook opens his eyes and spots someone sweeping nearby. His face lights up immediately. Ji Yunwoo? Without hesitation, he calls out her name and runs toward her. Yunwoo, right? He reaches her and excitedly starts talking, breathing hard as words spill out one after another. The two begin speaking together, and from a distance, Song Hyun watches the scene unfold. Then something clicks.